So Councillor Woodbury was recently sworn in as the Deputy Mayor of Southgate. So we are going to have him do a declaration of office for County Councillor. Okay, so I can read that.
Thank you. I, John Woodbury, having been elected or appointed to the office of councillor in the municipality of the County of Grey, do solemnly promise and declare that I will truthfully, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or in any other improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. And I will, I might as well put in the, or reigning sovereign for the time being. I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously, believing it to be true and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
I want to catch a photo opportunity. Here's our photo
Okay,
opportunity man. Available. Look at his brand new camera, by the way. So take a moment there to test the new lens. You got it?
Yep.
Okay.
Great. It
Welcome.
made notes.
Welcome
Thank you.
Thanks. Now we can call the roll.
Mr. Pringle,
Present.
Mr. Mackey,
Present.
Mr. Barfoot,
Present.
Mr. Burley, Mr. McQueen,
Present.
Gordon Halliday,
Present.
Ms. Patterson, Mr. Hicks, Ms. Clumpus, Mr. Greenfield, Mr. Body, Ms. Wright, Ms. Fosbrook,
Present.
Mr. Woodbury,
Present.
Mr. McKean, Ms. Ardell, Mr. Eccles, Mr. Bell.
Present.
Yep.
All hands on deck. That's good. Okay, so we're moving through the council here. Declaration of pecuniary interest. Anybody has it, they can declare it now or later as occasion arise. We're going to, will we switch right to the adoption?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
We can do the adoption.
So we're going to go to 6, that the minutes of the county council meeting, committee of the whole meeting dated July the 26th, 2018, and the resolutions contained therein be adopted as presented. Put that on the floor. Councillor Burley, seconder Councillor Barfoot. Any discussions on those minutes? Seeing none, call the vote. All in favor? That motion is carried. We have a bit of a change of venue this morning because our friends from Sienna have a meeting that they have to attend, a telephone conference at 10 o'clock. So we're going to move forward to
C.
C. Going to move to C. Thank you, Dr. Ara, for standing by on that. Okay. Go ahead. We're going to put the motion on the floor that report CAORCC 1518 Long-Term Care Management Agreement be received, and that the agreement between the Corporation of the County of Grey and Sienna Senior Living Management GPL Limited as general partner of Sienna Senior Living Management LP, Sienna, for a 5-year term with an option to extend for a further 5-year period substantially in the form of Appendix A to report CAORCC 1518 be approved, subject to any required approval by the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care, and that upon approval of the Ministry of Health, Long-Term Care, a bylaw and agreement to approve a management contract with Sienna Living be brought forward for council's consideration. Put that on the floor. Councillor Plumpus, seconder Councillor Bell. Are you just looking at the time? You're okay?
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
Okay. All right, it's now on the floor, discussion. Our CEO is going to lead some of the discussions.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. And this morning, I'd like to welcome the three representatives from Sienna Senior Living that are here this morning. We have Dale Moffett, Joanne Dykeman, and Philippa Welch, and they each have responsibility for one of the lines of business under Sienna. So report CC 1518 is the one that deals with the managed services contract. So this is the longer-term contract that we've been discussing for some time now. On July 12th, Council endorsed Resolution CC 7418, directing that the current agreement with Sienna be amended to reflect the execution of a new single-source full-service management contract to support our long-term care facilities. And this report provides a summary of the management contract terms and conditions for consideration as requested. So just to be clear on the process, with your support today of the agreement as it's drafted, Sienna and the county will submit that to the licensing branch at the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care. They will review the terms and conditions of that contract, and with their agreement, then we'll be provided with approval from the director of the branch to proceed. So in the meantime, that's where the second report on the agenda comes in today. In the meantime, we would amend the existing agreement that we have with Sienna to provide consulting support to us. The difference between that current state and the future state has to do specifically with the responsibility for our employees and also the responsibility for the financial transactions. In the end state, which is what this agreement that's before you now looks at, the staff, as we've talked about before, the staff remain Grey County employees, but Sienna has responsibility for the day-to-day management of those employees. Similarly, Grey County retains responsibility overall for all of the financial transactions, but it's Sienna that would have the day-to-day responsibilities for assisting us with budgeting and ensuring that all of the bills are paid. Now, we can do a couple of things. I wondered if there were some questions of a more general nature, especially given that Sienna is here, that anybody would like to put to them. We've been a year in this process, and it was a year ago now that we decided to undertake the operational review, and we had those results in May. And I think if there are some questions as it relates to the outcomes of the operational review and how Sienna's services will align with addressing some of the challenges that the operational review uncovered, I think that our Sienna representatives might be the best people to try and respond to any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Kim. Are there any questions with regard to general terms? Yes, John McKean.
Thank you, Warden Halliday. I guess that we'll just cut right to the chase, and on page 37 under the financial resource implications, one of the lines is will be opportunities to increase revenue and decrease costs and realign staff duties, responsibilities. Full understanding of the change will be identified as the management condition occurs. I think that I would suggest some of the questions I may have, and that may be of a personnel nature, so I was wondering if we would be better off to be in camera.
We can certainly go in camera and deal with those things as well. We provided for that in the agenda. Just wondered if in an open session, is there anything else, or shall we just go into
Question, yes.
closed?
Thanks, Mr.
Scott
Warden.
Mackey, Councillor.
Kim, I just wanted, the whole lame duck procedure, this is a $5.5 million contract that we're looking at entering into. Do we have the mandate now to be able to authorize this?
I have delegated authority to continue the work of council with your support. I don't intend to act unilaterally, but with the delegation bylaw that we passed at the last meeting, that we are still in a position to be able to proceed.
But can this council today authorize this?
Yes.
Okay, so that answers that question. Any other general terms? Yes, Councillor Fosberg.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Thank you, Kim. So just for clarification, there's a number of documents, and due to some technical challenges, I just had access to one this morning. The documents that we have in both of the long-term care reports via the links, which of those documents are we seeing for the first time, or this is an updated version for the first time?
The full text of the management contract, you're seeing that as part of this agenda.
Okay, so
The
the,
original consulting contract that's been in place since last February. The other report, CC 15, deals with the few amendments to that original agreement. Does that make sense? So there's a piece that's amending the agreement that we've had in place for a number of months.
yep,
So those amendments are new. And the full text of the management contract, that's coming to you today.
okay, so the full text of the management contract, we're seeing for the first time.
So, that was the request that was brought back.
Right.
For your consideration.
So-
That's what went out in the agenda package.
So the management contract, and then we have the amendments to that same contract.
No.
To
two
the
different-
existing.
Two different things. We have in
Okay.
place and have had in place for a number of months the consulting
Right.
agreement. So we're amending the consulting agreement to get us through to ministry approval.
Right. So the amendments to the previous agreement, the previous agreement that we're amending, there is no current link to? Did I miss that somewhere?
Link to the current.
It was appended to, there were two appended,
Yes.
the two
Right.
documents appended, the current agreement and the amending page. That was attached to report CC 16.
So when I asked the clerk for clarification, my understanding was that there's one version in the closed material, which is the unredacted, and then there's another, and I'm just trying to reconcile
And
the
so-
amendments to the agreement that we're amending. Where do I view that right now?
It's linked to CC 1618.
Okay, so that's probably the one that because I don't believe that link was, like I clicked on the link, it wasn't available publicly, so I've tried to address that here this morning. So that's the original agreement, and we have the amendments to that. And then the other documents that we are seeing for the first time.
That's correct.
Okay, I appreciate that clarity. So when we talk about the terms of the agreement being the 5 years plus the 5 years, I don't know how general you would determine this to be, but I still have a challenge with, my understanding historically is that Grey County at one point did engage the services of a specialty consultant, and it was a short-term arrangement. I would imagine that we learned a few things from that. My concern is that, diving into this on a somewhat permanent basis, yes, there's an exit clause, that, once you outsource to that degree, it's very challenging to go back. So I just wonder, do we still all agree, do we firmly believe that outsourcing this at this cost is in fact in the best interest, short and long term? It's certainly not lost on me that we do need to address some concerns operationally that we have, but do we really need to make a 5 and potentially additional 5-year commitment? And with what outcome at the end of that? Because we're basically outsourcing whatever expertise we have, and it'll be very challenging to go back. So that's kind of the elephant in the room for me.
Right, no, and I appreciate that, and that, I think that where we have been, and this is discussed some length, the Committee of Management, is that we've been doing our very best, stay ahead, curve, importantly, then we are able to keep. We've talked, I think, at length here about the complexity that is part of delivering high-quality long-term care services, of the increasing acuity of our residents. I think it's extremely important that, since we are bound to be in this business, that we are going to provide the very best care that we can and ensure that we are always in compliance with what the province is expecting of us. Since we went into enforcement at Lee Manor and engaged the support of specialty care at the time to assist us, we have been making our best efforts. We have purchased some policies. We have done our best to implement those with the staff that we have. But it's simply that the scope is so much bigger and more complex than we've been able to essentially keep up with. I think that this process that we're entering into now is one that's really meant to have a true focused effort on getting ahead of what we're facing. We're going to implement a full suite of policies and procedures and have the support to ensure that that's driven down all the way into the organization, that there's sufficient manpower to ensure that we're implementing consistently across our whole organization, and that at the end of this 5-year period, my honest belief is that we will be in a much better place to make decisions about what's required going forward into the future. Whether we find that this works, and at the end, the financial aspects of it are such that we feel that, we're not in fact further behind, but in fact much further ahead. But the big thing is about the quality of service that we're able to provide. That by going through this and going through this in such a focused way, all of our staff are going to be trained and supported to a much higher degree than anything that we've been able to do on our own. And I don't know if the Sienna folks, do you want to speak to that a little bit, Joanne, I think?
Thank you for allowing me to speak, and
Welcome.
good morning. I guess Joanne Dykeman, Executive Vice President of Operations for Sienna Senior Living. I'm a registered nurse and been working in seniors living for 30 years. And I think the one thing that I would start by saying is I applaud the leaders here who've actually engaged in an operational review, and what we found in the operational review, and your interest or your intrigue to look towards a management company. I can honestly say that more than ever, and the reason why I need to step away is for another organization that's challenged with the ministry, is that the regulatory environment and the acuity of care has changed significantly. You too are reading newspapers and articles of what's happening with matters related to Wettlaufer, and while that we know that there's extenuating circumstances there, here in this community you have 3 long-term care homes that have a high degree of complexity, regulatory environment very challenging. And organizations like you need to look at the best expert operating platforms that do long-term care for long-term care. And that's what we do at Sienna. We do long-term care. We have the best operating platforms, policies and procedures, and outcomes as compared to any of the organizations across Ontario, and even on a Canadian basis. We're well known for quality outcomes. So I think what I'd like to underscore is that there's strength in numbers in long-term care. When organizations get together and invest in the standard operating platforms that are well-designed, the IT systems, the people processes, the policies and procedures for the regulated healthcare delivery that's required for the frail elders, the likelihood of success is exponential. We've successfully brought in another municipal home who was challenged with many diverse issues: compliance, financials, people-related practices, work culture environments, and we can again say to you with confidence that within our term we have successfully managed and proceed to deliver exceptional results in all areas. So it's our familiar experience that with our strength of people, systems, and processes that we can bring that to you folks as well. We build on what you have started, And you've seen evidence of our outcomes the last time we met more formally when you were in a high-risk situation with the compliance orders, and you needed specialty care at that time. The Ministry of Health is not really open to engaging in short periods of intense support. What they look to do is put mandatory management orders in place, appoint management companies, and in some cases now closing long-term care homes. That is new. It's new for Sienna. That's not what we experience in our operations, but other operators are starting to see that. So I just encourage you to really look to the details of the operational report. You do need, I believe, a system and processes solution that's not at a point in time and not of a consulting nature. You really want to put it into a systematic, ongoing process so that it serves your elders here in the County of Grey as the best that you can. I would take any questions or comments, perhaps.
Councillor Burley?
Thank you very much. I made a mistake one day, and I was listening to the radio, and they were talking about accreditation.
Yes.
The comment that was made was that the day's coming along, they're gonna have an inspection, so everybody in the home or whatever, they clean it all up and so on that one day. That's so untrue, is it not?
Oh, so untrue. I listen to the radio on long-term care every day, and last night was no exception for 2 hours, listened to the inquiry reports and so forth. There's so much misunderstanding. First off, accreditation is a voluntary third-party process with an organization outside the Ministry of Health compliance. So you seek that to actually have a well-recognized, better than compliance organization. You also get additional funding when you're accredited. And they also will take funding away now if you're not accredited. So there's some notions there. It is not a single point in time. It is, there's a period of time where accreditors will come in on a cycle of every 3 years and so forth. But on an annualized basis, you're going to submit a plan to make sure you sustain the accreditation status. At any point in time, they can come back in if an event happens and take that or put that in sort of hiatus if they feel that the quality has changed. So that's the accrediting body, third party. And of course, compliance is the Ministry of Health and the regulatory body. So there's two bodies that actually meet together.
The point I was trying to make is that it's a day-to-day ongoing
Oh.
thing. It's not just one.
100%. To be accredited, one would not be able to ever prepared sort of just in time. You're actually deeply integrated with the quality standards on an ongoing basis, and that's certainly the basis of our operating platform is a quality process, so that you're meeting accreditation on a daily basis versus, trying to think about getting ready at, one point in time and ready for a big event.
And see, that's where I think we fail. To get that kind of information out there to Joe, ratepayer out there. This is why.
One might draw attention to another lens right now, because we have obligations now with our LSAW agreements, which you would have executed with quality improvement plans. We are now learning that those quality improvement plans, similar to accreditation plans, similar to compliance plans, and the visibility of that, it is an ongoing daily basis, the need to actually drive to the performance measures that are stated publicly on those plans, but also the media's interest to pick up when you miss it and not successful. So absolutely, it's an ongoing daily basis to be not only compliant, but accredited with a quality designation. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Councillor Fosbrook?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Thank you very much. Appreciate the information. I guess I wonder, will your training include training our staff to, in fact, eventually replace you?
It's an excellent point, and again, the call that has me taking me away here shortly, but my colleagues will certainly step in there, but an excellent point. My job is to make organizations and leaders successful. And when they're successful, they're independent and autonomous, and the ministry is never questioning that there's a need for a third-party organization to come in and support. Having said that, the training is only a component of it. Our strength not only lies in the training and in actually sharing with others our wisdoms, our approaches, our procedures. It's the operating platforms that we use to actually help execute on the systems of regulation. So whether it's our, I would say, best-in-class electronic health record, not only with the the point-click care database you may use here already. It's actually what's in it and what's written in it to help nurses execute. That's not trainable. That's actually the best-in-class leaders that I have that work for me that only do long-term care, that on a daily basis, I have 6 leaders that just keep the operating platforms current on process change, best practice change, medical changes and procedures. They do that work every day for all communities. You would need a team of people here, and I don't know who does that, to actually make sure you take best practices, clinical procedures, and puts them into the operating procedures so nurses can execute with them. That's the operating platform. It's not just the policy and procedures, and it's not sharing that it's better to change this dressing twice a day, you should do this one once a day. It's building that right into the electronic platforms we use, and then educating using the tools, the people, and the processes. So it's both. But can I make an organization successful? Absolutely, I've done that before. Typically, people find it better to stay partnered with us because it's not really people or process, it's the operating platforms. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you for that.
if I may, Mr. Warden, I'm also interested in knowing, so I looked at the staff report, and in relation to reporting and frequency and so forth, reporting frequency, it talks about monthly, quarterly, annually, and then there's a category of other.
Yeah.
And in other,
Yeah.
I guess, you know, the reporting to me is critical because this group is accountable.
Yes.
Regardless of what we delegate to you, we own it.
Right.
So to that point, what can you tell us about the actual reporting? When do we get to see examples? So we're satisfied that we're getting the information with which to make informed decisions. And finally, how are we going to measure your success?
Excellent questions, and I can answer a couple pieces easily. We can give you immediate sample reports that are now publicly available that other municipal organizations like yourself use that are successful for that group. But it may not meet your needs. So we're very adaptable what we put in terms of content-wise, and it could be co-created and get blessed and say that meets our needs. So that's an immediate service that we provide in terms of what does this audience need. The other thing that we do is we put an opportunity to shape what we call a balanced scorecard to the measurement of our contract. So you would measure our performance on what agreed upon targets, and the targets would really be around 4 areas of service. So quality resident care deliverables, quality indicators or satisfaction. You might measure us on the engagement of the staff, so the quadrants of indicators of highly engaged staff, workforce injuries, maybe attendance management, performance metrics. You could engage us on some financial targets. Are you really looking to try and trim or grow or enhance high-intensity needs reconciliations, whatever your financial measures might be? And then finally, the one that's most important to us in these relationships is what is your community targets? If you're looking to expand the performance of your community, your long-term care homes in this community, how does Sienna help you show up in that space? Because you're not looking to show Sienna up. You're actually looking to actually show Grey County's homes have a high presence and a profile and a reputation. So you might measure us on social media feeds of your organizations using our technology. We set those targets up as a balanced scorecard, and then they become measurable on a quarterly basis. Now that's a pretty, I'm going to say, sophisticated process. In the first year, it's really getting to know each other, and you might just say, I need some really basic information in the first year, and by the end of that first year, you sort of start to set targets. But at any time, we already know quite a few targets that we would recommend that you take a look at because they're probably already at risk. You might just say, get us out of the non-compliance areas. That's the #1 target because we see some of those areas we would already want to report on in and show you how we're moving that. So we set the reports up on frequency, content, and metrics collaboratively with our key leaders that we would be working with.
Thank you for that response.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Mackey?
I was just wondering, how many other counties does Sienna provide management services for?
We specifically have this similar contract in one, the city of Kawartha Lakes, and that's publicly well familiar, so I share that, and certainly references can be forthcoming from that group. We met with the the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, and there's others in that group that are quite motivated and we've met with. We've managed a couple of hospitals who have long-term care homes, and they ask us to manage their long-term care floors or wings. So that's an interesting one, because one would think they're healthcare underpinning, but they're not experts in the regulatory compliance. So they also marvel at our ability to be so successful in that space. So those are a couple of other examples of where we do work.
So sorry, Kawartha Lakes, how long have you been involved with?
Yeah,
Kawartha Lakes?
actually, we've been there 5 years now, and they've just entertained another couple of cycles of terms. So they're very pleased with our work there.
If I may, Mr. Warden, has the Long-Term Care Committee reached out to Kawartha Lakes to find out what their experience has been?
Mr. Burley, you want to answer? I know Kim has, but. You want to answer? Oh,
Yes, there's been
Sorry.
several conversations with Kawartha Lakes to identify areas where Sienna's helped, what the benefits have been, what the downsides, do you have any downsides, what are they? And they spoke very highly and quite pleased with the reference.
thank you for that.
That's a good question.
Councillor John McKean.
Thank you, Warden Halliday. I guess, in the conversation, and just brought the thought up, you're taking over the management and supervision, the training of the employees. If something takes place and there's a lawsuit, where does Sienna stand? Or does that fall back to the county? I'm just wondering at the liability stage, usually at a supervisory position or organization, there'd be some sharing of liability.
Yeah, no, it would actually stay with the county. Our relationship is your management company. You would expect us not to have matters that would elevate to such a degree, but in their current relationship, it would stay with the county. You would utilize our services both from a subject matter expert perspective, recommendations, hot issue management to mitigate risk, but the actual cost incurrence would be under your insurance program, because that actually stays with you. It's in scope. You provide the insurance for those organizations.
John, yes?
So this would be significantly different than, we do hire out, and basically this is a firm for hire. Thinking about in the road business, there's safe harmless clauses, indemnification clauses. If there's something that takes place, it actually puts that on that organization. So in this particular instance, it's going to be quite different.
Yeah, there's indemnification. Right.
For certain. And there might be opportunities as well that you would explore with us, right?
Right, okay. Just remind everybody to use their microphone, Councillor Burley. Thank you. Thank you. I know you have a 10 o'clock, you're late.
And we'll come back.
Okay, thanks. Kim, did you want to
So thank you. So
move into closed or something?
moving forward from that, I don't know, were there any further questions
Yes.
on the report itself? Okay, I think it outlines, I'll just draw your attention to the legal and legislated requirements, which are quite clear here about the need for ministry approval and then the need to advise the ministry of any changes. We are subject to quite a high degree of oversight in this regard, and I guess I take that as a little bit of extra protection to us. The ministry wants to ensure that there can only be an orderly transition should there need to be a change. When we get into discussing the termination aspects of the contract, again, should it be on Sienna's wishes that a change were to be made, the ministry would need to approve that, and then, again, the ministry would, I think, be protecting our interests and the interests of our residents.
Yes, Council, yeah, sorry, do you want to continue, or I know John is asking a question. but-
Do you want to go, we can go into closed if that will help, or I can ask a question.
John, you want
I think I have one more question.
one open question? Okay.
That can maybe be answered in open, and I guess it goes back to the Committee of Management and maybe to Lynn. During, it's to do with the information provided by Sienna, with the city of Kawartha Lakes, was the question ever posed to them after 5 years, are you any closer to being able to look after your own affairs than you were before?
Do you want to answer that, Kim?
it would be
or
my-
Lynn, or?
I think that what we took from the conversation with them, that was that what Sienna's been able to do with Kawartha Lakes is essentially turn their operation around. They've significantly reduced their costs as a result of having Sienna as part of their organization. I don't think they have any desire to change. Would that be your take it from Rob?
That would be correct.
I would comment on that as well, John. I did speak to one of the counselors in City of Kawartha Lakes, and she was very, very pleased with the service that Sienna was providing them, and they were very happy in the cost reductions that have occurred over the 5-year period. It was a decreasing cost, so there was something there. So go ahead.
Further to that then, so will we be able to get into some of those examples from Kawartha Lakes and what could save the county money in closed session?
Perhaps that would be, in a closed session, you can certainly deal with that, yes.
Sure. To the best of our ability. The point that I continue to make about the cost saving, and further to what Joanne spoke to here, is they will be taking direction from us, from the Committee of Management, and from this council. They'll bring, based on your direction, they'll bring options forward for you to consider. It will be up to us, up to all of you as a council, to determine how far you want to go or what direction you want to go. If the financial part of that balanced scorecard is where you want to see significant effort and change, then that's the direction that needs to be provided to them, and they'll execute on that. If you're looking for something other, another balance, a different emphasis, that's their job to carry that out. But for them to say, well, we'll be able to make this much of a change financially, would then presuppose that they had council's complete support to do whatever needed to happen. And we haven't got there yet, basically.
Yes, Councillor Burley?
I'll use the mic this time. One other comment. I'll never listen to the radio again, but the comments that come through was that county council are not giving our rights to Sienna. We're still elected officials. They aren't. They're private individual. The point we need to make is that the Sienna group still report to the Committee of Management, which is made up of elected officials. And that point doesn't seem to be able to get out there, and we need to get it out that we're not really giving anything up. We're doing business in a more professional, better way, we hope. That's what we're doing.
I would say that was correct, yes.
So it's important that we make sure everyone knows that we aren't giving control of our long-term care homes up, per se. It's still elected officials.
I will look to Rob, and perhaps we need to just revisit the press release just to ensure that that point is made stronger, if it's not enough.
Yeah, that point needs to get out, yes. Thanks, Councillor Burley. Councillor Fosbrook?
Thank you. With all of this information, I just want to stay focused on the resolution of the staff report that's before us. So I note that we're describing Sienna Senior Living Management GP Limited as a general partner of Sienna Senior Living Management LP, which goes back to the question of, you know, how many entities and liability and all that good stuff, but we're going to address that. And then it goes on to say substantially in the form of Appendix A. So use of the word substantially suggests that Appendix A, which if I have correct, it doesn't have, are we referring to Schedule A scope of work?
No, we're talking about the contract itself.
Okay, so there's two links in this report. One of them is draft management agreement. The other one is statement of work to Sienna agreement.
That's right. So
So the statement of work to Sienna agreement, is that the one?
I apologize, that is confusing language. The statement of work is the Appendix A to the agreement.
Which
but-
is Schedule A scope of work? Is that what it says on the top left?
I don't have it in front of me, but I'd say, yes, that's correct, that's. the
Okay, so this
document.
is basically a chart that I would summarize to say addresses responsibilities, if not accountabilities.
At a very high level. The,
Right.
the agreement itself goes into additional detail, but this was meant to give you a sense of who was responsible for what
Right.
within the relationship.
So when you say substantially in the form of Appendix A is then,
Both of those things together.
right, so Appendix A is not set in stone.
Appendix A is the agreement and the statement of work to get taken together.
It's both of them.
Both of those things
Right.
together.
Okay.
And I think that, first of all, we know that this is all subject to the Ministry of Health's comment and potential for adjustments by the ministry if they feel that adjustments are required. The other thing is that it may be that over the life of this agreement, that there are specific things here within the statement of work that we may wish to further adjust.
So to that point, and understanding, like, my interpretation was that this was not set in stone. So I appreciate that clarity. In the report, page 36, third bullet point from the top, labor relations and collective agreement negotiations will have the participation of both Sienna and county staff.
Yes.
Okay, so who's leading?
They remain Grey County's employees. Grey County would continue, I think, to have the ultimate authority with regard to setting a mandate for collective bargaining, just as you do now. You're going to take or be provided, should you wish to have it, input and advice from Sienna about what's happening across the industry, what is a reasonable negotiating strategy going forward.
And I appreciate that, because it goes on to say, county council retains the ratification authority for all collective agreements as owner. So when you say owner, is that staff? Is that council?
We, the big we, Grey County, is the owner.
Okay, so when it
And-
comes to negotiations with staff, council will be involved.
Council, as you have in the past, Human Resources brings information forward to, in this case, it would come through the Committee of Management and then on to council with regard to what a negotiating mandate might look like. And then it would be up to folks here to consider that information and then provide direction back to staff and to Sienna about exactly where you wanted to land. We would negotiate on that basis.
Well, I appreciate that. When I looked at the, and I'm not quite sure what to call it, the chart, the scope of work,
Yes.
the first category, if you will, manager's responsibilities, Sienna, manager to ensure that all contractors follow and adhere to approved policies, manager to provide local level contracts. So, manager to ensure, the agreement covers when they fail to ensure? That's built in there? And we're gonna talk about that?
Yes, we are.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, Councillor Greenfield.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and thank you, Ms. Wingrove. We have a new provincial government at Queen's Park. They are already becoming quite notorious for making U-turns on policies, for better or worse. Their platform was to support long-term care, a good number of new beds, actually. However, can Grey County or Sienna guesstimate any negative future situations from going into this? This is a 5-year contract. This is 2% on our county budget. I'm just wondering, are we somewhat assured that what we're doing today is going to comply, is going to go in line with what the provincial government might come up with over the next few months or years?
Dale, maybe I could ask you to speak to the scope of how many residents or homes Sienna's responsible for and,
Absolutely.
Welcome once again.
Thank you very much
Nice
for
to
having me. My name is Dale Moffat. I am the Vice President of Quality Informatics and Consulting Services with Sienna. I have been in long-term care for more than 30 years and was actually part of specialty care with the relationship with Grey County. So I'm very pleased to be here today. In regards to the provincial government, I think, sorry, it's hard to see.
Councilor Greenfield.
In regards to the provincial government, one of our jobs that we do with our operating platform and our systems is we follow provincial mandates and what is going on, and we try and predict what's going on. We also have people sitting on the boards of OLTCA, which is the Ontario Long-Term Care Association. We have many different provincial boards that we sit on, ELSA, we sit on indicators and what is coming down the pipe. So we actually hear a lot of stuff firsthand. Is this the right direction? And what is the provincial government going to do when it comes to contracts, et cetera, and will you be in a good space? That's our job, to help you understand when there is a turn from the government, when there is a turn in long-term care. We know the Wettlaufer case is going to change long-term care and the regulations. We know that's going to happen. We do expect further regulations. We expect further scrutiny in long-term care. We expect more management contracts, just because the ministry is looking at high-risk homes, and should they have been looking at them a little bit closer and understanding what was going on. So we know there's change coming. And it's our job to keep up to date with change and keep you up to date with change. Because how we shift and change our operating platform goes right in line with what the province legislation, whether it's financial, whether it's Ministry of Health, Ministry of Labor, AOTA, it doesn't matter. It's not just Ministry of Health. You've got TFSA, you've got fire, there's many different things. That's our job, to help you understand what are the twists and turns in the government and what direction they're taking. Does that help? We spend a lot of time with them.
Councilor Greenfield, does that scratch what you're thinking about? Yeah, I mean, I think because they have so many homes, they're certainly involved, and that's, even on their own basis,
Yeah, we
they
have
need
over
to be,
10,000 residents that we
need to
look
be
after.
aware of what's happening, so. Okay, so we've answered that one. Yes, thanks, Gail. Oh, Councilor McQueen.
Add to that, Mr. Warden, and just to follow up with Councillor Greenfield, I know that AMO in the past has always been very involved with the government change of policy, and with the MOU, hopefully moving forward, there's still that relationship with the new government. And if that is, that's always the avenue. AMO always has, through their staff, the ability to comment back to the government if there are sweeping changes made, if they continue on that MOU and that relationship with AMO. It's hard to know. I mean, that we're in those early days, but I think that will be one indication. If that does change, there will be some concern. But if they continue that relationship with AMO, I think, and certainly I think with yourself through the industry, I think the government would be smart to work with other industry leaders on that stuff too, before they do would you call it a U-turn or a right turn? Yes, so, but certainly we have seen some interesting stuff in the last few weeks, so I think that's sort of early days, but if you see a change with the AMO relationship with the government, I think then you will have some concern.
Thank you for those comments. Thank you, Gail. Kim, so, do we want to ask if there's any more questions with regard to this before we go into close, or do we want to go in closed and then pass this, or is everybody comfortable calling a vote now on this? Councillor McQueen?
Well, I'm just one voice around the table, but I'd like to go into closed session because I do have some more pointed questions regarding the possibility of the savings.
So that being said, do you want to make a motion to go into close? Yes, seconder, Councillor Pringle. So we'll enter into closed session
I'm sorry, before
Yes.
we call the vote, there was a question about personnel matters. Do we want to add that to the resolution here? I'm just looking for Counselor. Yes? Okay, just so we make sure we're going in for closed.
Right, okay. So all in favor of going into closed? That motion is carried.
If I
So-
could point under joint responsibilities, jointly identify high-risk policies such as financial, quality risk, and privacy policies. So, again, going back to that accountability, is the county still going to bear the accountability of identifying high-risk policies? Because I think that's what we're paying the big bucks for Sienna to do. So is that appropriately a joint responsibility?
I think, again, it goes back to the premise of this as an agreement between two parties, that Sienna's not going to work unilaterally, right? That we need to always have a shared understanding. The Committee of Management and Council needs to understand what those significant issues are. And
Yeah, I would bring to the table what I recommended your high-risk policies and ones that you would want to make sure you reclassify them so that you understand these are the highest risk ones. And if you saw an exception to that, or there's recommendation that they don't agree, or we're missing something, you can bring that forward. But it is absolutely up to us. That's how we manage, is not in a vacuum. We absolutely manage. It's what we do, is we bring forth what we believe are the management areas that we start with high risk. Will we do it? Absolutely, but we won't do it in a vacuum, so you're never surprised. Is there something you thought that should have been different or somehow? Sometimes we do that too, to make sure we actually are isolating specifically what matters you want to hear about and how quickly. Otherwise, as managers, we're going to run the business and manage to take away that there's a regular risk management, and then there's escalation. So it's the process that we bring to the table so that you are jointly fully informed all the time on matters related to high risk. We start at the policy level. We bring that to the table.
Well, I appreciate that, and to me, the difference is between the use of the term responsible and perhaps, we will be consulted. And I just want to be clear that the accountability, if you will, because I like that word, I like being clear on who's accountable. So Sienna will bear the accountability of identifying high-risk policies.
Yes.
Right, so this is not appropriately worded. I would recommend that you maybe have a look at that, because for the sticker price, I want to know who owns what.
For sure, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Someone making a note on that? Okay, thanks, Kim. So we have a motion on the floor that's put on by Councillor Klumpus and seconded by Councillor Bell. Any further discussions on the motion? Yes, Councillor.
Thank you, Warden Halday. I guess that, through the great discussion we've had today on this, I still have a couple of items that I'm hung up on, and I think that Councillor Mackey brought one of them out is the ability to get out of this within a short period of time if we found it's not working. Seems to be problematic in my view. I know that, yes, I understand through this, the hiring and the great expense there can be to hire the people and bring the policies ahead, but still, all in all, we are a lame duck council, actually, and to have this, make this so that the next council really basically can't even do anything with it either is problematic in my view. And the other thing is the liability part of it. I really believe that, I understand the logic of long-term care, I guess, but if Grey County's not in a management position on this, but we're still in the liability position, I do have a problem.
Thank you. Do we have any comments on that, or? No. Councillor Eccles.
And I understand where Councillor McKean, you may be cranked up or, concerned about that liability. But the province a number of years ago, with a very similar strike against or with responsibilities in the municipal world. And we got woke up very late into that. And we've dealt with something very similar to this because of Walkerton in 2000. We have hired experts under contract in most municipalities in Ontario to run our water system because a number of individuals without expertise in how to manage that and how to meet the standards that were going to be required for public safety, we were forced and went very much fighting against that portion of our responsibility. I think over the years it's proved to be prudent that we went that way and that the experts are looking after that. I'm not an expert in long-term care, not an expert in road building. None of us, I think, can really say that we are to the extent that Sienna is, or the extent that Aqua or American Water in running our water systems. And I see this as being absolutely no different. We have staff that work with those companies that put the policies in place, and this is being proactive because we've already discussed some of the things that are happening in the long-term care and what probably will come out of it, and that's always seems to be there has to be a tragedy and there may be an overreaction, but I think we're being very proactive here. This has been gone through by an awful lot of legal. There's a lot of legalese in here, whether the word should be this or that or whatever, but from a legal standpoint, the contract is what it is. I would look to the expertise of a couple of lawyers, but in this type of a contract, I'm not sure that they want to, as a lawyer and a council member, want to comment on it because it's probably outside of their expertise as well, too. That's why we went outside. I think staff has done a terrific job in being proactive on this, and it's going to keep us ahead of the bar. And we are the ones that the liability stands on. We are the ones that are municipal, that the liability of running our water systems come back, and we've hired the experts to do it. I'm fully in favor, and we'll be voting for this going forward.
Thanks for Councillor Eccles. That is a good analogy between the water and long-term care. Any other comments? Okay, call the vote. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. I think we'll take a 5-minute break and then.
This second report might be extremely quick. If it's just the amendment of the.
Oh, okay.
Of the consulting agreement, and then we would be.
So then we'll go back to 18, which is B, right? Okay, so let's put that on the floor then at the report CAOR-CC 1618 amendment to the long-term consulting and support services agreement, that the amending agreement between Corporation of Gray and Sienna Living for the purpose of providing long-term care support services as outlined in Schedule A for a term commencing immediately be approved until an agreement to approve a management contract is received from the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care. Councillor Eccles put it on the floor. Seconder, Councillor Wright. All in favor? And motion is carried. No. Thanks, Kim. We'll have a bit of a break and then we'll come back. Thank you. July the 27th, 2018. The Board of Health minutes dated May the 25th, 2018, and the Board of Health notes dated June the 22nd, 2018 be received for information. Put that on the floor. Councillor Barfoot, Councillor Greenfield. Discussion. Dr. Era is here to lead us through. Welcome.
Thank you. So the summary of the board meeting July 27th and the June meeting is as follows. There was no quorum in June, so the meeting ratified all actions from the previous meeting, from the one before. In July meeting, correspondences included 2 categories. The correspondence was received for information for further no action required and included 4 correspondence. Perth District Health Unit, and the correspondence was related to Section 43 of the Criminal Code to provide children the same protection from physical punishment as given to adults. The second one was from the Ontario Film Review Board, and it provided a response to the board resolution stating that it provides parents and moviegoers with content advisories when tobacco appears in certain film ratings. The third one is from Peterborough Public Health, and it's regarding to mandatory food literacy curriculum in the Ontario, and the health unit supported the call from other health units to include it in the curriculum. The fourth one is from the Premier of Ontario response to acknowledge the letter from the board regarding request that portion of cannabis tax revenue go to support public health implementation and enforcement. The second category of correspondence is related to endorsement and support by the board, and included 2. The first one from 4 health units: Sudbury, Kingston, Chatham, Kent, and Windsor, Essex counties. And the 4 health units request the province to implement without any delay the Smoke-Free Ontario Act 2017. The second one was from Simcoe Muskoka, to endorse recommendation from the Canadian Public Health Association in their position statement 2017, decriminalization of personal use of psychoactive substances. And the next item was the MOH report. Dr. Lynn provided an update on Lyme disease. A report written by myself covered background, clinical presentation, epidemiology, risk assessment, and surveillance and control measures as specific to the Grey Bruce Health Unit. The next item was program report, and the Grey Bruce First Fruits of Empathy Baby Celebration. The program, the new pilot of Fruits of Empathy, celebrated 17 babies and their family to be educators to 400 students in Grey Bruce, and this pilot helped children from kindergarten to grade 8 in 13 schools across Grey Bruce to learn about feeling, respect, inclusion, and infant development. And the main goal was to basically prevent violence and bullying in early age. The pilot has been successful so far, and the celebration was just to produce more awareness about it. The next item are news releases. There were a group of news releases, the most important of which are overdose alert and heat advisories, 2 of them, and an advisory about Lyme disease updates. The next section was financial report, and the financial report to May 31st, mandatory programs were in a surplus of about $470,000. This is expected to be balanced by year end with additional hire and enhancement of programs. And the board will receive in the next meeting streamlined version of the budget documentation at the next meeting to be compared with the current reporting of each individual department and program. The next and final item was other business, board effectiveness survey. The Ontario Public Health Standards require the Board of Health to have self-evaluation process. So the result from that evaluation came back, and the results are all positive. Nevertheless, the board requested member self-assessment to participate in self-assessment tool to reflect on their own performance as a Board of Health and to identify possible areas of improvement. The building updates, I'm very pleased to announce that the building roof work is complete and all deficiencies are corrected. There are discussions underway to agree about late penalties and return of holdbacks. There were amendment to retirement and resignation recognition policy, and the amendment of internal financial control and annual audit, banking resolution. This policy was updated to reflect current bank signing authorities within the organization. And that's gist of the report. If I may, I would like to add that pilot e-notification that the council was briefed about by the ambulance services has been underway, and today we received the first notification of opioid overdose documented by email, so that's a concrete evidence of the success of this pilot.
Thank you for that comment. Does the chair have anything to say?
Thanks, Mr. Warden and Dr. Eyre for the report. I just wanted to highlight the one point in the evaluation. One of the questions was how good of a job or how adequate the chair is, and the chair scored really high. So I just wanted to make sure that didn't get perfect, but was very close.
There's room for improvement. Okay. Yes, Councillor Pringle.
Questions? Thank you, Mr. Warden. Dr. R, as I briefly discussed with you earlier, our township fire chief had some concerns about administering the naloxone product and the reaction that could occur and the danger that that might mean for firefighters, because usually they are first on the scene. Do you have any comments on that?
Certainly. So naloxone is an opioid antagonist. Its role is to reverse partially or completely an overdose. Opiates causes the body to relax. Too much relaxation would cause an overdose. And as you can appreciate, naloxone would reverse that immediately. So a person would be in withdrawal immediately, within minutes if it's injected, almost immediately with nasal spray. So this is an adverse effect of the drug. It has been known, it has been used for years, and the education that we provide for first responders includes strategies to deal with this reversal in overdose. The result would be agitation and restlessness, but it's really not different from any risk from whatever first responders deal with whenever they're attending a scene. A person in seizure could be, can be swinging. So to me, it is definitely a concern, but it could be addressed in many ways. Our nursing teams in hospitals, first responders, ambulance deal with it on a daily basis. And it really boils down to the fact that a person is dying, half the way dead, and we can administer this, and that would give them a second chance. Usually in hospitals, and I was speaking with our ambulance service, it's automatic. We don't really think twice about saving the life of the person. To me, if somebody wakes up and yells at me versus, continue in their journey to completely dead, it's an easy choice.
Thanks for that response. And Kevin, do you have a few words on that? Yeah, I know your team does it all the time. So.
Yeah, so our goal initially is it's really around ventilation, because somebody doesn't die because of the opiate itself. It's because they're in respiratory arrest. So it's the hypoxia that kills them. So as long as we can ventilate them appropriately and their blood pressure is fine, then we don't give naloxone. That's part of our training. But we have monitors to ensure that their oxygen levels are fine, and we take them to the hospital while the opiate is still on board. But if there's ever a case where, we can't ventilate appropriately, if they say they vomited and you can't control their airway, or if you have to take them out of a house down a multi-set of stairs, that you have no choice but to give them naloxone, we don't think twice. That is always a risk, the agitation and aggression. And the other thing that we also face is when you wake these people up, sometimes they don't want to go to the hospital, and trying to get them to go to the hospital because the narcotic antagonist, which is naloxone, is only lasts about a quarter of the time of what the opiate could. So the risk is they could run away, and then from there they could revert again. So those are kind of risks that we deal with every day. But if you get into the setting where you have to give naloxone versus life and death, there's no question. We don't question what the patient outcome would be. Like Dr. Harris said, we could have a seizure patient that's combative and be just as aggressive, especially when they're post-ictal, like when they start to come back up.
Well, thanks for that, Councillor Pringle. Does that help you, or
Absolutely. Yeah.
require further training? So.
If I may add, sorry. So in the first 6 months in 2018, we provided naloxone kits to 330 people. We provided training to 211 people. There were a report of kits being used 45 times, and 0 incidents or report of adverse effect of compassion or a patient becomes combative, sorry.
Aggression, yes.
Thank you for that update. Councillor Pringle. Councillor Mackey, you have a question on that?
Warden, I guess just to follow up with the previous discussion, I was wondering if Grey County EMS Services and Dr. Era could maybe reach out to the Grey County chiefs just to give their perspective, because right now, the information that we were given from, our chief was that the Grey County chiefs, there's only 2 fire departments in Grey County that are currently using naloxone. So I would be, in Bruce County now, I think is all of Bruce County fire departments are using naloxone. So it came to us because we have Chesley, we are part of the Chesley Fire Board, and their chief was asking for naloxone. And so we got a report back from our chief that didn't want to give it. Chesley did want to, so that's why some of the questions were coming from, our council about should we or shouldn't be. And I'm hearing that we should be, so if some of that information could be shared with the Grey County chiefs, I think it might be beneficial.
Kevin, what do you think of that?
Yeah, we have an emergency services day that we do once a year with police, fire, paramedic, health unit was involved last year. Might be a good time to do it then, and then everybody's in the same room, and Dr. R participated last year as well, so. And you did speak about opiates with everybody there, but we could focus it more on naloxone administration.
Okay, well, that's an opportunity. You'll stay in touch with Scott. Okay,
Sorry.
yes, Dr. Era.
Yeah,
Then
the annual meeting,
Councillor
is
Fosberg.
definitely an opportunity, but I'll make the effort to outreach to the services immediately. We send them a letter in February to give them the notice that we can provide these services, but I'll do it immediately and fortify it with the annual meeting as well.
Okay, that's great. Councillor Fosbrook, you had a question.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. So the minutes from May 25th are when the municipal auditor gave their annual report. And so my question is, did the auditor issue a management letter?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
Did the municipal auditor issue a management letter in conjunction with their report for year-end audit of the financials?
I don't believe they included one. I could be mistaken. However, we are looking ourselves with the new corporate director into the effectiveness of the audit, since we can increase the scrutiny about different aspects of the budget. I can double check if there is a management letter, and I will let you know about it.
Thank you for that. And I apologize, I read so much, things get blurred. Was this year-end 2017 that was, the audit report was for?
I would assume so.
Sorry,
So
what
the
are you
auditor
reading?
reported on
It says
2017 year-end?
Yeah, 2017.
Right, yes.
Okay. And I guess the only other question is, the executive committee, when the executive committee meets, is that, are those agendas and minutes published as well?
They are published. The ministry audit point out that all subcommittees should be minuted. The sample they chose found that some subcommittees, since the board meets all together, really we don't have subcommittees. But this is something we're working on going forward to document all of them.
So going forward, we should see minutes from executive committee as well as the board?
Correct. And in the past, we already have that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
There is a new director at Grey Bruce Health, so. Councillor Eccles.
Thank you, and I think this one goes through to probably the chair of the board, through you. Are we, is the health unit going to put out a contract with Coverall? And just put a coverall covering over that roof so that we can finally cure the problem?
I'm sure that,
I can say with great certainty that we are 100% confident that there are no leaks, will not be any leaks, and we move on.
there's a big warranty that is part of that, so. Just, that's
So
a
it hasn't rained since you put it up.
local joke there. Councillor Pringle feels much better about the roof now, so as well. Thank you all for that. That being, thank you, Dr. Ara. So any further discussions? We'll call the vote. All in favor? That motion is carried. Okay, thank you very much for that. We're now going to go to bylaw 5030-18, a bylaw to adopt amendment number 142 to the County of Grey official plan affecting lands described as Part Lot 15, Concession 1, Divisions 2-3, Geographic Township of Ergamont, Township of Southgate. Put that on the floor. Don't all jump up. Councillor Hicks and Councillor Mackey. All right, any discussion, and are you going to lead anything on this, the plan? No, just stand alone? Any questions on this bylaw? Councillor Fosbrook.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. The last time we talked about this, I expressed concern about the process that's been followed, whether it be the Aggregate Resources Act process and the planning process. I'm not going to dwell on that today. The remaining primary concern of the residents who are impacted by this proposal is still the location of the driveway. When our local council talked about this in the context of our Grey County update, if you will, I was reminded of the fact that it was Grey County that in fact recommended not using the preferred route that the residents, I think, might be happy to live with. So we've got Grey County recommending one thing, and then, I'm hearing that, well, it's a township's decision. The bottom line is that it seems like maybe the lower tier can say it's the upper tier, and the upper tier can say it's the lower tier, and quite frankly, the residents are left in the dust, literally. So I cannot support this. I understand these processes take a dog's age to get through. Nonetheless, what these people are asking for is not unreasonable, in my opinion, and certainly warrants further consideration. So I'm not going to belabor the point, but I can't support this. Thank you.
Thank you for that input. And do you have any comments, or shall I just move on?
I think those were covered. I wasn't in attendance at the last council meeting, but through discussions with Scott Taylor, who presented the report, he, I think, addressed in terms of the reasons why it's being recommended the haul route is we always look for opportunities to get to quickly as the provincial highway system as possible, and that's what's the recommended haul route in this situation, which has been supported at the Southgate level in terms of the zoning bylaw amendment that's been passed, as well as the adopted local official plan amendment, and that'll be worked out through the haul road agreement as well.
Right.
Between the township and the developer, or the pit owner in this case. So I think it was discussed previously at the last meeting, but if there's any further questions with respect to that.
Thanks for those comments, Randy. It puts it in perspective. Yes, Councillor Bell.
Quickly, I asked the question last meeting, hours of operation of the pit. Just wondering if that had been taken into consideration. It hadn't been finalized, but I know that any gravel pits, I think most municipalities have, 7 to 7 Monday to Friday and 7 till noon on Saturday? Would that be adhered to also?
I don't know whether it's a county issue or not, Randy.
Yeah, those are the typical hours of operation that we see, but I don't know what the hours of operation are proposed. Those are typically addressed through the Aggregate Resource License, and be reflected in the site plan. That can be something that could be discussed with the township as well, those site plans, but typically we see those reflected in the site plan. I can't recall off the top of my head what those hours of operation are.
It's nothing to do with the county, no. Okay, any further discussion? Yes, Councillor Fosbrook.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I guess I just want to point out as well, at the last meeting, we had yet another PowerPoint presentation in the context of the report that was on the agenda. When I looked late last night, I still didn't see the PowerPoint presentation added to the agenda. And the concern I have with these PowerPoint presentations is that it's on screen, I don't have a copy of it, I can't make notes, we're not referring to the report that's the official record that we use to make the decision. So I take exception to the fact that I still don't have a copy of that PowerPoint. And furthermore, I want to point out that Bill 73, I think I can say was implemented, enacted, whatever the terminology is, in 2015. And Bill 73 made changes to the Planning Act and Development Charges legislation, and specifically to the Planning Act. My understanding was that we were to demonstrate how we listen to the public. And I don't think we're listening to the public here. So I, again, state that I think what they're asking for is not unreasonable, and I could go on, but I'm going to stop talking. Thank you.
Thank you for that. With regard to the PowerPoint presentation, is it on the website, or will it be, or was there?
Should be, I'm getting it.
Should be, we're checking that out. Okay, it should be there, that's kind of standard procedure, so I think our clerk will. Yes, Councilor Mackey, you have a.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. I just want to be clear, what was the discussions at the lower tier level? Was it approved at the lower tier level?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I guess that's a short answer. And the understanding was that the recommendation from the county was, no, we don't want to go this way, we want to go this way. And all the residents have concerns, but the primary concern is, do you really have to go this way?
That was something, though, that was dealt with at the lower tier. Okay, without further, unless there's further discussion, we'll call the motion. I don't see any further discussion. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Thank you. Motion is carried. Okay, move on next to new exciting part of life in Grey County, and that's good news and celebrations. And they're going to start with the starter company, and we've got Jane and Courtney coming up to tell us, and Savannah to introduce the people that are going to be talking. Thanks, Savannah. Nice to see you.
Thank you very much, Warden. It dawned on us that it's been 4 months now and we haven't actually formally introduced you to Jane Phillips or Courtney Miller, who are a business enterprise center here at Grey County. So I am going to do a quick introduction of them, and then they are going to talk about all the success so far to date. So it's really hard to believe that it's only been 4 months. They joined us on April 1st of 2018 from the city of Owen Sound, where they've been operating for the last 17 years. And what a 4 months it has been. The energy and enthusiasm is just unbelievable. And they really hit the ground running with our mandate to promote and support entrepreneurship right across the region. And you're going to see demonstration of that today. So Courtney Miller is our business enterprise manager. I'm going to give a wave. And Jane Phillips is our business enterprise consultant. And Taylor Corfield is our business enterprise coordinator. She's away today, but she will be joining the team as of Monday. So in the last 4 months, we have rebranded. You have one of these on all of your tables, and we have our Economic Development Working Group tomorrow with all of your staff from across the municipalities who are getting lots of these. We've opened the satellite in Hanover at Launchpad, so one day on Mondays, they are there every other week, which is excellent news. So again, we're starting to get that information out and our bodies across the county. And we are also talking with Markdale and Grey Highlands about the second satellite there. So that way we can have good coverage, because we've got excellent partnerships with our neighbors in Collingwood as well, who really cover a lot of Meaford and Blue Mountains area. So I'm not going to spend any more time here, because these guys are absolutely dynamic and they've done a phenomenal job, and they're going to tell you about what's happened in the last 4 months. So I'll
Thanks,
pass it
Savannah.
on.
Great news. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. So we're certainly happy to be here and glad to spread some of the good activities, because it's always a busy part of the community, and that's business development. And we're happy to take on that and continue that role. I just wanted to mention too, although it wasn't specifically part of the announcement today, but we also have 6 summer company students who are running businesses right now throughout the county, and you'll start to see them featured on our Facebook pages. And we had the launch, and the warden kindly came to that to help us launch those folks running their businesses. So we had a maximum of 6 that we could fill in positions, and we have 6. So it's wonderful to see them starting their businesses at a young age. So today, though, is about Starter Company Plus. And just a quick background, Starter Company started in 2014 and ran through 2017, and that was a program that had an age limit up to age 29. Then the provincial government finished that program, and we got rid of the age restriction, which was wonderful. And part of that was to supplement the fact that the self-employment benefit program had then been stopped. So this is another opportunity for business development. So this program provides an opportunity for eligible participants for training, advice, mentoring, and then to help them start, grow, or expand their businesses. And we have a mixture of folks today that are successful applicants that are starting or growing and expanding their business. It also provides the opportunity for a grant, and these folks are all the successful applicants who have received grants. I do need to mention that due to the demand, actually, over this last 2 years, we as an enterprise center and now as the Grey County Enterprise Center have been able to distribute $100,000 of support for business startup in this program. And so this is the final intake of this for this program for this year, as the contract and agreement does end March 2019, but we've had enough. We've had such a good uptake on the program and successful candidates. It is a competitive program, by the way. We had over 23 folks attend the training portion of it. So training, development, writing a business plan, presenting to a committee that we put together. And these folks that we have today are the successful ones from that program and that process. So the benefits really is that it's training as well in developing. So even the folks that didn't receive the funding, and there is quite a criteria that we do develop for that, they did also receive training and development for the businesses, and we've had some good response on that as well. So this program, of course, is separate from the other activities that we do for the general public. It's a specific eligibility. So I'm going to turn it over to Courtney to introduce the candidates that we're so happy and thankful they took time out of their businesses today to come here to speak with all of you. So thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Courtney.
Hi. So I'm going to introduce you to each of the businesses. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what they do and where they're from. And I'm going to ask them to stand up as I refer to them so you can associate faces to names. So first we have Cody Walker. So Cody is a resident of the municipality of Chatsworth. He has opened a new business with his partners Emily Walton and Jack Doris called Samsara Wilderness Tours. They offer guided canoe tours in Grey, Bruce, and Simcoe County, and they have plans to expand to include trips within the Algonquin Park area in the near future.
Very good.
Next, we have Lindsay Budgell.
That's good.
Just a quick question.
Of course.
Are we going to get all that written down? Do we have to write it down as you go
I'm happy to
along?
send it to you.
That'd be great.
Do that. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get a recap list. All right, thanks.
Next, we have
Go ahead.
Lindsay. Lindsay is the owner and operator of Lindsay Budgell RMT, an integrative massage therapy service. She's moving into her new location in the Shawell Lake Health Center in Georgian Bluffs, and will offer massage services with a focus on injury recovery, pain management, and soft tissue maintenance.
Welcome.
And then next we have Paige. Paige Scott has recently moved back to the area to open her hair salon, Hair by Paige, in Georgian Bluffs. She offers a range of services out of her salon, as well as off-site styling for weddings and special events.
Thank you.
Next, we have Kelly Ma. Some of you may be familiar with Kelly, as she's an artist within Own Sound, and actually some of her beautiful paintings are featured out in the hallway right now. Kelly is well known in the area and has expanded her business recently to include yoga and painting classes as well out of her home studio.
Thank you for that.
Then we have Amanda Fromage. She is the owner of Harmony Hockey Academy. Amanda offers year-round skating programs in the Owen Sound area currently. She's looking to expand those services and offers programming for skaters of all levels and ages.
Thank you for that.
Then we have Yuri Rosa. Yuri is the owner of Bearwood Finish Carpentry. He's a trained finish carpenter and provides trim installation services for newly built properties and renovations within Grey County. Next, we have Jana Miller. Jana owns Jana Miller Jewelry. She designs and manufactures jewelry made from recycled materials. Her services include jewelry repair, pearl and bead restringing, as well as custom projects. And you may be familiar with her as she is currently featured in the Artist Co-op and is a member of the Artist Co-op.
Thank you.
Next, we have Jennifer Moore and her husband, Jason. They are the owners of Meaford-based Connect the Dots Fiber Communications, a telecommunications company which provides high-speed internet, VoIP telephone, and IPTV to residences and businesses within Meaford and the surrounding area.
Very good.
And last of our business owners who are here today, we have Joanne Keenan. She is a Red Seal chef and is the owner of Mojo's, a company which specializes in seasonal plant-based food. Joanne currently sells her plant-based curries, seasonal ready meals, and side dishes at the Meaford Farmers Market, and also offers catering services locally. So a few of our business owners weren't able to be here with us today, so I'm just going to quickly tell you a bit about them and what they do. So we have Kristen Harley. She is the owner of Fox Salon and Spa, located in Owen Sound. She's currently operating out of her home, but is going to be moving into a new physical location in downtown Owen Sound in the fall. We also have Tom Snyder. He's the owner of Sydenham Metal and Machine. He offers welding, machining, millwright, hydraulics, and fabricating services in his downtown location in Owen Sound. And he's actually on the front of all of the pamphlets you guys received today. We also have Robert Curry. He is a journeyman plumber and gas fitter and the owner of Grey Bruce Plumbing, a residential and commercial plumbing service located in Owen Sound. We have Corey Hargest. He's a carpenter and is the owner of Hargest Renovations out of Owen Sound. His services include custom renovations and small-scale new build projects. We have Joel Nicholson out of the Blue Mountains area. He is the owner and developer of Track Club, a mobile fitness app that offers video-based interval running programs for the treadmill. He has recently started selling his app on Google Play and within the Apple App Store. We have Andrea Garner and her husband Mark, who own Fed Farms, a high-yield market garden located in the municipality of Meaford. Their products are currently available for on-sale purchase, and they are planning at expanding to local markets in the 2019 season. And last but not least, we have Adrienne MacArthur. She's the owner of Little Ones Studio and Boutique, a new business that has recently opened in downtown Hanover. She offers a studio that offers creative play-based activities for children, as well as a retail space. So those are all of our new businesses. Over the coming months, we're going to be featuring each of them with a bit of a profile on our Facebook page, and we would love if you would share those within your communities as well to help them get a little bit more exposure. And if you see them out in your community, please say hi and congratulate them.
Thank you, Courtney. So we have a list there, but maybe you want to put some little bit embellishment on
Yes,
an
we'll brand
email,
something
right?
up nice and send it out to you. So as you can see, entrepreneurship is alive and well here in Grey County, and we really wanted to celebrate that fact today and celebrate these folks. So we were wondering if we could steal the warden just for a quick group photo before they have to go.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Is that
you know.
okay? Okay, excellent. If we can just do another round of applause for all of our business applicants.
Just quickly looking while they were speaking there, with some of you have put a tremendous amount of effort into a web presence. And Mr. Bearwood there, if I didn't know I needed trim in my house, your website would certainly inspire me to get some. That's absolutely gorgeous.
Stand in front.
Yeah, I think
You're the organizer. Never mind that, in a photo op.
Part of the program.
Swift?
Well, that's a program that's really exciting. Wow. Got to hear more of that. Okay. We still have opportunity here for some more good news and celebrations, so anybody want to start this off?
Yes.
Councillor Barfoot.
Well, one of the unfortunate parts of moving on in the summer, when you start having the advertisement of the Sydenham Sportsman Derby coming up, means we're getting into the fall area. Anyway, today is the media day for Sydenham Sportsman at the clubhouse. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave about 10 to 1 to go to there. I thought we might have been done the agenda at that point, so that's why I had committed to it. So obviously, we want everybody that fishes to come out and fish within the Derby. It's located obviously within Owen Sound, but the clubhouse is in Georgian Bluff, so it's a combined effort between
The joint venture.
the two municipalities. And if nothing else, it's a great time for camaraderie at the tent at night. There's a lot of wise words that are spread around at that time. So anyway, just wanted to make sure everybody marks that into their calendars for coming up for the end of August.
Thanks, Alan. Anybody else got some good news that they want to celebrate? Councillor Eccles.
There was two things come out in the last week. A fundraising project that's gone on the last 2 years by a couple in Ayton. They have a young child that has Tourette's, and the national campaign is out there. I think there's about 16 different walks and runs in the spring of the year for Tourette's, and across the country, the West Grey Ayton Walk for Tourette's was the #1 fundraiser for in Canada.
Congratulations.
In that May thing. So congratulations to the Tone family for putting that together and running it in Ayton in the spring. The other one was the top 100 municipalities in Ontario came out, and West Grey happened to break the top 100 this year. We're at 94. There is certainly room for improvement, but it was very nice to see that we had made that list. So West Grey, if you want to be in the top 100, come on down to the south part of the county. This weekend, mental health is something that's on everybody's mind. For 10 years, the Colleen Lantz Memorial Run ran in Newstead in memory of a longtime resident of Newstead, West Grey, was killed in a car accident about 3 years ago. West for Youth for mental health kind of has taken over, and that is this weekend. Pasta night starts Friday night to Pasta Load for the run. I know, Gail, you'll be down doing the 10K run.
Good luck.
The 5K run?
Good luck.
The 1 kilometer run. All kinds, 5K walk and everything starts on Saturday. I know that the Director of Planning has been there, right? Since Barb left and your personal trainer, your push, you're no longer participating, but there's a lot of county staff that still are there. And then this weekend as well, starting tomorrow night, is the Bentinck Brant Hanover Agricultural Society's Fall Fair. At the racetrack is pretty much the central point. Am I stealing any of your thunder for the Fall Fair? But it is the Bentinck Brant Hanover Ag Fall Fair to start off that Fall Fair season, which Mr. Barfoot had said the Salmon Spectacular and the Fall Fairs mean that the season is changing.
That's good news and bad news. Anyhow, yes, Councillor Body. Yes, you had your
Thank you.
hand up there.
I've got about 15 things here.
Okay.
First one that I'm really excited about is on all of our desks. Big thanks to county staff, Kim and everybody. They've listened to me whine been waiting for this date to come along for about 6 months, that we're finally getting some suppliers for Bruce Power here in Gray. It's nice to get, I'll bite my tongue. That's Thursday, August 16th. This is pretty important, I think, for all of us in Gray County. 43rd Summerfolk coming up August 17th, 18th, 19th. Fish Derby you just hit. I just wanted to point out Yuri that was just here was somebody that came to Owen Sound on the city's Are You Most campaign when we let people test drive for a weekend and hosted them. We have another segment of Are You Most coming up. Past weekend, the warden and I and MPP Bill Walker on the Friday night and MP Larry the next day attended the Emancipation Festival. Emancipation Family Picnic has been going on for 156 years. It was really busy on Saturday. You weren't there. One of the guests that was there this weekend was Senator Wanda Bernard, first black woman to be tenured at Dalhousie University. Of course, there's a big black heritage community that is similar to ours in Halifax, and they've started to link up, which is really cool. She had no idea until she had somebody from Grey County working for her in Ottawa that we had this event going on year after year for this many years. Senator Bernard plans to introduce a bill at the federal government to recognize August 1st as being Emancipation Day right across the country. It currently is Emancipation Day in the province of Ontario, but not other provinces. So at some point, assume nothing. If we may have to get Councillor Mackey, being the only one that we know is returning after December 1st, to introduce a motion at some point in the future to support this from Grey County. I think it's important, given our heritage, to be able to support something like this going forward. So that was kind of an interesting weekend, and I think that covers off all my things. Thank you.
That was certainly a good events there. Any other events? Yes.
Thank you,
Councillor
Mr. Warden.
Patterson.
In Hanover, we call it the Hanover Bentic and Brant Fall Fair.
We know our alphabet in West Gray.
Just to add, there is a carnival all weekend, and the Great Cookie Contest is on Sunday, and I'll be judging chocolate chip cookies on Sunday.
That's a good job. Okay. Well, that's good news, and a nice thing to see the starter company as part of our work here in Grey County. So I think without further ado, we'll call for adjournment, and then we'll move on to lunch.
Lunch is ready.
Lunch is ready, so we'll move to lunch. Councillor Bell, Councillor Eccles have the honor today of adjourning this session, and thank you very much.